All who can join us in singing I Come to the Garden. I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet, the birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. I'd stay in the garden with him, though the night around me be falling, but he bids me go through the voice of woe. His voice to me is calling, and he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known.
That was one of Rita's favorites. John, would you have an opening prayer for us?
Father God, this is a moment in time that's extremely important to us, but at the same with you. You've led this wonderful life that's had ups and downs and challenges, but it's all over now, and she's secure in your love, and she has the gift of eternal life, and that's more precious than anything that this earth can give somebody. And we're just grateful for that. And as we have our service now, and we remember her life, pray, Father, that whatever you want to tell us will come through, and especially for the fact that we mean the same to you, and our future could have a time like this too, and you'll be there, and you will be looking forward to spending all eternity together with us, just like you are going to be with Sister Qualls. Praise you for having heard and answered our prayers now and being with us at this moment. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, we'll start out with Susan sharing a few things.
Oh, sure. Yes. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I know my grandma would appreciate having you all here. I know there's many still joining currently on Zoom. I'm getting messages with people trying to get in. So Okay. Rita Carmen Garner Qualls was born on May 8, 1929 in McAllen, Texas. Her father died when she was a 10-month-old baby, and her mother died when she was 2 or 3 years of age. She was raised on the family farm by her grandparents and aunt near Alamo, Texas. As a little girl, she used to like to climb up into the numerous orange trees common in that part of the Rio Grande Valley and eat fresh oranges. She learned later, however, that the acid from the citrus was not good for her teeth. She was too busy playing to go brush her teeth every time. She attended schools, including the Far San Juan Alamo High School, where she graduated in 1948. She then entered college at Pacific Union in Angwin, California, in the beautiful Napa Valley. She soon began dating a classmate by the name of Earl Qualls. In 1950, Earl transferred to Loma Linda College of Medical Evangelists, now Loma Linda University in Southern California. Rita transferred to nearby La Sierra College, now University. Earl graduated in 1951. Wedding bells rang soon afterward on July 12, 1951. The young couple moved to Napa Valley, California for a short time, where Earl was a physical therapist. Then they moved to Oklahoma, where the Qualls family began to grow with the addition of a girl, Dana, followed by a son, David. In 1963, the family moved from Oklahoma to Wildwood, Georgia. They brought along their home, a 10-foot by 50-foot trailer. Rita worked at the Wildwood Sanitarium and Hospital, the Old San, as a nurse's aide. Around the mid-1960s, the family moved into the Wildwood community in the Blevins Trailer Park. During this time, Rita did some canvassing work in nearby communities with her friend, Sister Gladys Hadley. Also during this time, the Qualls family helped lead out in organizing a branch Sabbath school and new church in the nearby community of Tiftonia, Tennessee. Rita played the piano and helped in the children's Sabbath school divisions. In the late 1960s, the family moved back onto the Wildwood campus at the Lake Heights location. Rita stayed busy gardening, growing beautiful flower beds, canning, and raising her 2 children. In the early 1970s, she worked as a caregiver for an elderly lady on Lookout Mountain. Rita loved to cook, and she was excellent at it. Sabbath after church frequently found a group of guests crowded around their kitchen table enjoying her delicious food. And I can attest, my grandma could cook. We always left her house with a big round belly. Rita played the piano and even a little bit of saxophone. She loved art and was quite creative. Her granddaughter, Susan, remembers happy times spent coloring with Grandma. Rita was a lifelong member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. She enjoyed studying the Bible on topics such as righteousness by faith and the gospel. She loved to claim the rich promises contained in God's word. On the night of June 14, 2015, Rita suffered a devastating stroke, and for a while it was unclear whether she would live. Although she survived, her life became much more difficult as the stroke impacted her in many ways. Partial paralysis interfered with her ability to walk and with the use of one hand. Even her vision was affected. But most devastating was the loss of her ability to read and communicate. She had much difficulty putting her thoughts into words, and that combined with her hearing loss effectively isolated her. But though Rita's life would never be the same, she appreciated precious moments with family and the thoughtful visits of friends. She was blessed with loving caregivers and a supportive church family at Wildwood. and she was especially grateful for the loving companionship of her housemate, Miss Jean Atherton, a very special lady who we consider as family. Earl, her husband and lifelong companion of 68 years, passed to his rest at home in Wildwood, Georgia on November 9, 2019. Rita quietly went to sleep the morning of September 6, 2021, with her loving daughter, Dana, by her side. She rests in the blessed hope now, awaiting the resurrection and the glorious appearing of her Savior, Jesus Christ, and the joyous reunion with her precious family and friends. Won't you commit your life to Jesus today and plan to be there too?
Well, I especially enjoyed learning about some of what happened before she began to stay more to herself. Now Dana, her daughter, will share with us.
I want to thank you all so much for coming out. This means the world to me. My mom, as many of you know, was a private person and an introvert. And she, after my dad's memorial service, in her garbled speech, she somehow or another made me understand that she didn't want all a big deal made for her. So this is why we're doing the graveside service, and that will be it for her, because that was her personality. She was a more of a retiring person and didn't get out in the public that much. And she was a very sweet, easy to get along with person. When I was a child, she suffered some sort of, still don't know, I guess some sort of nervous breakdown or something, where she suffered a lot from depression and just different emotional things, and so it made life a struggle for her. But when Susan was born, oh, Susan could do no wrong. She just would do anything for Susan. And as she got older, I noticed she seemed to improve a little bit in her mental situation. But then when the stroke happened, it aggravated things, and her mind suffered a trauma there. And she, as some of the caregivers can attest, she sometimes wasn't cooperative, and I apologize for all the people that got hit, pinched, and whatever. Know you're in good company, because last Wednesday, even though she got sick 2 weeks ago, and she was lethargic pretty much the entire time, hardly opened her eyes or did anything. But so I took that as my opportunity to cut her fingernails, because she hates having her fingernails cut. And she managed to rouse up enough life to take her hand, which she can't make a fist, but she did a left hook and caught me square in the jaw, and I felt it. And she glared at me and asked me what was I doing that for? And I said, well, Mom, you still got some life in you there. And then as soon as she did that, she went back out into her lethargic condition, and I continued cutting her fingernails because she used up all of her energy. So my mom she had spunk to her, and she had a lot of sense of humor. We had a lot of fun together. One childhood memory I have, and Ellen will remember with me, we went on the Jacobson family, and a lot of people at Wildwood, but especially the Jacobson family, they lived next door to us. We've celebrated 4th of July one year when Dad worked at Erlanger, and he had 4th of July off, and we Mom made us a picnic lunch, and the Jacobson family and our family hiked up Power Trail, okay, on Raccoon Mountain, Power Trail, hauling a gallon of spaghetti in jars, canning jars. My mom took a pillowcase and loaded it up with all this spaghetti, and hauled that meal up the mountain. Now, if any of you who've hiked up Power Trail knows it's almost vertical. I mean, and we picked blackberries. That was our. Well, no, she made blackberry pie too, and took that we hauled that up with us. And when we got to the top of the mountain, we had our 4th of July dinner, thanks to my mom. And we picked blackberries and had a wonderful day. That's a wonderful childhood memory I have. It's been a long haul these past 6 years. I was offered to prolong her life and pull out all the stops, but she was 92, and my brother and I felt like that she was tired and she wanted to go in peace. So to let nature take its course, and that's why we allowed this. And she went peacefully this morning. And I prayed 3 things. I prayed that God would make sure I was at her bedside, that she wouldn't die on Sabbath, because it was looking a little iffy on Sabbath. I didn't want to make a big ruckus here. I didn't want everybody to have to get out and work on Sabbath. So I said, please don't let her die on Sabbath, and please don't let her die in the middle of the night, because I don't want to wake up people to take care of things. And he answered all 3 of those prayers. So I want to thank you, God, for that. I'm really tired, so I can't think very well. So I'm probably missing a lot of stuff here. But if anybody has anything they want to add to it. And again, I want to say, I can't thank Wildwood people enough. I can't even begin to name all of you, but you all have been over the top, done everything you could to make my parents comfortable and take care of them, and help me out here, and to make this a wonderful service here. And I want to thank my friend Shree over here for making this beautiful spray on the casket, and my daughter for making this arrangement out of my flower garden, out of my garden and off the roadside. My mom liked wildflowers and garden flowers, so I wanted to keep in keeping with her personality. And I want to thank you all for all the flowers that you brought. Each and every one is special, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate each and every one of you for coming out and making this such a special service. And I still can't wrap my mind around the fact that my friend from Oregon showed up. I just can't believe this. Ellen Butler, and her daughter, Melissa, thank you. And of course, Linda came from way out in Athens. I appreciate it. And Steve Shree from Ringgold, and all of you. I can't name everybody, but I know some of you drove a long ways. No blocks here. They came quite a ways. So thank you all, and thank all of you so much. You really made this day special. Thank you.
Well, thank both of you for sharing. It's very meaningful for us that knew your parents for many years, and yet some of those things about Rita we didn't know. My thoughts went to a statement that probably many of you have heard. I'll read it from Counsels on Health, page 375. Many will be laid away to sleep before the fiery ordeal of the time of trouble shall come upon our world. And since COVID began, I think we are well aware that we are in the final stages of Earth's history, and that soon this time of trouble that this quote points to us is going to be upon us. And so, as you know, it's not so much the sickness. My wife and I have had COVID. Our son, his wife have had COVID. It's rough. I mean, it can be. It's not everybody that has it real rough. But the way in which it's being handled is really rough. And I just happened to see a video from India. And there was this one village where the healthcare worker somehow found out a natural treatment for COVID. And the word got out, and thousands of people would come to the village. Some of them would be near death, and they'd put these drops in their eyes, and in 15 minutes they'd be well and walking away. And so, you know, it's a serious warning to us that the end is near. And so I think we can be thankful that Rita was laid to rest. And my thoughts also went to a beautiful story in John chapter 11. I won't read it, so we don't want to make the time too long. You know the story. But in the story, we see several things very clearly. Number one, we see the love that Jesus has for every one of his children. He showed it first by not going. And of course, he was questioned, why aren't you going? But then when the time came, his disciples didn't want him to go. And they were fearful of death. But the love of Jesus took him there. He trusted that it was part of his duties to go there. And so he went. Another key point in the story is that it equates death for the believer with sleep. And so he wants us to look at that as a sleep. That Rita is asleep, and she will awaken before very long. Her sleep is going to be short because the time is short between now and the time that Jesus will return. Also, we see the love of Jesus in resurrecting Lazarus, because Jesus doesn't like to be separated from his children. And also, he wanted to do a very special favor for Lazarus because he was a special friend. The family, he could always stay there. They always believed in him. It was a very special family, and I see the Qualls family like that. I was much closer to Brother Qualls, but I know that their family was one of God's favorites because they loved the Word and they loved to talk about the Word. And so we can expect that Jesus has the same plan for Rita. When it's the right time, he lets her go to sleep. When it's the right time, he's going to resurrect her and give her all of the things that he really wants to give us anyway. But right now, in this whole world, they wouldn't all be a benefit to us, but they will be in the future. And so I'm very thankful for the whole family, and especially today, we are remembering Rita in her faithfulness in spite of all the trials that she had. You know, another thing I've learned as life has gone on, there's more than one way to torture people. You don't have to put them in the stocks or whip them. You don't have to do that to torture them. There's other ways the devil has to torture people And I believe Rita had some of that, but it's not because Jesus didn't love her that he didn't keep her from having that. It's all a part of our preparation for our heavenly home. To learn sin is not a good thing. To serve the enemy is not a good thing. It brings trouble and sorrow. And we all need that lesson because we're all sinners. And we do listen to him now and then. So it's a real blessing to each one of us. At this time, if there are some questions that you have for the family or a short experience you want to share, we'll take a few minutes for that. You should use the mic though, so come down here. And we'll take a few minutes for that. Anyone?
I also want to add, my brother is unable to make it because of his wife's illness. So they really want to be here in the worst way. I forgot to mention that. But, you know, I want everybody to know that they would have been here if they at all could have been able to be here.
One thing that's really, really important and can't be overstated is that Brother Qualls and Rita, his wife, were blessed incredibly with a faithful, caring, loving, supportive daughter who took care of them in their last years. And she really did, using worldly language, a phenomenal, job of doing it. And so dedicated, so there for them, so absorbed in their needs. And that is the hand of God reaching through and touching somebody for the stuff they've gone through in their lives. And so, and then of course, Donald was there, behind his wife, and considering his situation, he's got the same type of heart. And then right over here, Susan, same type of thing. You've got to talk about practical godliness. That family exemplified it big time. Just want to bring that out.
Our family has a long history with the Qualls family from the early 70s forward. When Dana's mom would have some challenges along in those early years, my mother became her very best friend. And she always lit up when my mother came around. And we would, she and Earl would be walking along the roadway and we'd come driving along and we'd stop to say hello. And she'd look to see if May was in the car. And she'd go right over to that window. Yeah, she loved my mother. And we had the privilege of helping with the first chapter of the stroke that took place when my mother was being cared for in her home. Rita first came to be with us there. And Earl would come every day and sit in the recliner chair and read to her, give her physical therapy on her. And yes, he was very faithful to show up. Because she couldn't talk well and she couldn't hear well, it's hard for caregivers who haven't been trained as caregivers to always know how to respond. And she could tell if you cared and you connected, and she didn't always respond well to those who didn't. And so I made it a habit to try to instruct them, also how to love her and to demonstrate it. My mother was another one. The caregivers would just be appalled every time I walked in. It's just like she lit up like a Christmas tree. It was like, and Rita would too. And so I showed them how to hug her, how to love her, and how she responded to it. And I was gratified to see that many of them caught on how to do it, and it was a blessing.
And just because she hit you didn't mean she didn't love you, because she hit me a number of times. She was just defending herself.
I think she hit your dad sometimes when she thought he got a little more aggressive than he needed to be with his physical therapy. When my mother was dying, she didn't say much. She wanted to go in her room, but she wasn't allowed. And she didn't argue with that, but she was very pensive. Earl wanted to save her from going and seeing her. And, but by the time a casket came in the house and, she was being prepared, once she was fully prepared and in the casket, I went to Earl and I said, this is your wife's best friend. I think you need to allow her to grieve and to see. And he wasn't sure about that, but I said, come and go with me. I took her on one side and your dad took her on the other side, and we walked her in. And he was so glad afterward that we had, because she walked up to that bed. Actually, this was before she was in the casket. She'd just been prepared. Roby finished her work and she was ready to be put in the casket. She walked up to that bed and she looked and she said, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And then she just broke down and wept. And Earl was he wept too. He was so moved by what, and we just allowed her to spend whatever time she wanted to there until she made her own decision. After a while, she was ready to go. But I treasure that moment because I know that just meant so much to her. So, and then after my mother was gone, we moved her to her own home. And then Miss Jean joined her there. And you've heard about that chapter of the story. But it's been a privilege, a great privilege to be a little part of the Qualls family all the way around. And I'm privileged to be a member of the same church now with Mark and Susan and Donald and Dana. In fact, they're a good reason why we're there. So.
Yeah. Rita, one of the things that she really enjoyed was I would come down to visit her, not as much as my wife was going down, but I would come down to eat with them on special occasions. And what she enjoyed was every time we had to put her in a wheelchair and wheel her over to the table, I would pick her up. And she got the biggest joy out of that. She would smile real big and she loved me picking her up.
Because he's big and strong.
Yeah, another thing that she liked was the stories that we would tell each other back a couple years back. Yeah, years ago. Rita, y'all don't know, but Rita loved to laugh. She could laugh and giggle and everything else. So it's just something I wanted to let y'all know that.
My mind went blank. When my dad died, you go ahead. No, I want you to do it.
You do it.
When my dad died, he was dying. I went and got Mama. Said, Mom, you want to go tell Daddy bye? Yeah. She didn't know he was dying. I explained to her that he's really sick. So I took her in the room, and it took her a while. She couldn't understand what was going on, but I put her hand, because he was already in a coma and he was doing that labored breathing. I put her hand on his hand and I said, Mom, tell Daddy bye. I didn't want to say he's dying because I thought he might hear me. So I said, tell Daddy bye. And it took her a minute, but she finally caught on. And in her garbled speech, you couldn't understand her, but she said, "Oh, too bad." And she said love, and she said something about Jesus, said something about love and Jesus, and she goes, mm. And Susan got it on her phone, and to me that was a sacred moment. She could hardly do it. She was about crying. I said, get it together and get this on your phone. So she did. But my mom, she was very stoical. She didn't show her emotions, but sometimes she did, and that was one of them. Thank you.
What's really special to me is seeing you as a family walking together. Every time David came to visit, you would see all of them walk on the campus, and that's basically the only time you would see Rita. But I remember when I made friends with your dad, he invited me to come over to see how they can soybeans. And so I went over there, and your mom was so, she under her voice, she says, "Who's this lady? I can't understand her." She couldn't understand my accent. And so she was not happy with me being there. But later on, when we started caring for her, she did smile when I came over.
Sorry about that. I can't control my parents.
Well, I'm not sure where to start because Dana and I go way back. I mean, we're not really that old, about 4 or 5 years. But anyway, have so many neat memories of Rita Qualls. She was also a very good friend of my mother's, my late mother. And we have lots of memories of camping and hiking and hauling around spaghetti. That was fun. I had kind of forgotten about that. We got to witness Stevie and his family's first camp out up in the Smokies. That was kind of historic. Remember that, Steve? Yeah. Yeah, well, I was going to spare them that. Anyway, Rita was an amazing cook. Remember her coconut crisp cookies? Oh, they were so good. And she made the best spaghetti. And just so many neat memories. And I got to know Mrs. Qualls back when she was young and very vibrant and in her full powers. And so that's very blessed to me. I also am humbled that God knew that I needed to be here today. I was in Alabama visiting my daughter and son-in-law. It was only 3 hours away. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here today. So I praise God for leading me when I didn't even know. And this hill is very special to me. I've often pictured myself standing here when Jesus comes. There's so many people that are buried on this hallowed ground that I want to be with forever. And I want to meet each one of you there too.
You will.
Amen.
You will.
I'll just say something real quick. God gives us a lot of gifts, and one that he gave Miss Rita was a sweet spirit. And I tell Dana, one of my best friends, I tell her a lot that she has that too. She has a gift. And so I always thanked, and the food, your mom's food. Yeah.
It was midsummer of 1969. It was raspberry time. And our family drove onto the campus of Wildwood and up the hill to the orchard. Orchard View, I think, is the name of the house. It was fairly new then. And there was the Qualls family out in their garden picking raspberries. I got to taste my very first fresh raspberry. I tell you, I cannot have a fresh raspberry now, especially the first one of the year, without remembering that day. I was a little bit intimidated. My mom had told us that the kids at Wildwood didn't argue. They always obeyed, and they were perfect.
They didn't hate me.
Well, you helped disabuse me of that opinion. Steve helped too, you know. Yeah, Dana and Steve and I and Donald went to the elementary school together, so we have a lot of history. And then, of course, we went to the Tiftonia Church, So Ellen was part of our gang there. Yeah, yeah, good memories. I didn't really know Rita that well. I was just a kid, but the family, Dana and David, and we just have a lot of connections, and then we kind of went our separate ways, and our paths have come back together again, and we've been able to keep in touch and by phone and get together occasionally. And I really appreciate the friendship that I have with them.
I do too, Linda. Thank you.
I don't know Rita for a long time, but she's impressed my heart and connect me with God. I know Rita know how too much communication with people. For sometimes she's wake up and tell things you can get in shock. And one of the things she's doing when you trying to turn her to one side to the other, she said, "Be careful." And she demanded you have to pay attention what you're doing. Mama Jean and Rita says my little princess. So that's the good morning until when I'm coming. And Rita send the kids like all the time and had some things impressed the heart. I take care both, but I receive more than what I giving. Mama Jean teaching me about the power of the Holy Spirit. And even I can talk too much to Rita. Rita had connection and show you how much she loved God. And couple weeks before COVID hit the home, Mama Jean and me doing worship with her. And Mama Jean is that testify the witness. She started to sing the song. And that's impressed my heart so deep. And Mama Jean too. I think God prepared her for this time. I like to say to Walgo, to the family, Jesus coming soon. And he had two callings, calling to serve him and do like missionaries and preach the gospel, or calling to rest. So you have to be ready for both calling. Please prepare yourself for the time the end come. And I like to talk about her. Don't forget her. Come to the window. Enjoy her life now. She needs more than ever the company of everyone in this campus. And receive from her the Holy Ghost. She's ready to give in to others. Thank you so much, and thank you to give me the opportunity to work in elderly care. It's part of my way to go heaven. Thank you so much.
This is Maria. She has been I can't say enough about her. She took care of my mom and Miss Jean like her own mother, and I can't say enough. I'm just thankful. She deserves a gold medal of the year.
Well, I think we'll sing a song and close this part of the service. One that comes to mind is When We All Get to Heaven. I'm not sure the number. 633.
Okay. When we all get to heaven, sing the wondrous love of Jesus, sing his mercy and his grace. In the mansions bright and blessed, he'll prepare for us a place. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. While we walk the pilgrim pathway, clouds will overspread the sky. But when traveling days are over, not a shadow, not a sigh. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Let us then be true and faithful, trusting, serving every day. Just one glimpse of him in glory will the toils of life repay. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. Onward to the prize before us, soon his beauty will behold. Soon the pearly gates will open, we shall tread the streets of gold. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory.
Let's have a prayer. Our Father in heaven, we have really enjoyed celebrating this life here this evening. We know that you had hold of her and that you did many wonderful things through her. And so we commit her to you, that now she's resting in the hope of the resurrection. She knows that the resurrection is coming, and it's only going to seem to be a moment to her when that takes place. In the meantime, we pray that those of us that are left behind will be as faithful and be as diligent to bless others, so that we too will be able to be reunited with her and many others on that wonderful morning. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate that.